DeSoto was created by Chrysler as a mid-priced division in 1928, named for the Spanish explorer and conquistador Hernando de Soto, who led a large expedition to explore much of the coastline around the Gulf of Mexico to become the first European west of the Mississippi, among other things. Early models were really just lower-priced versions of the base Chrysler, with the Chrysler 6 downsized to 175 cubic inches, or 2.9 liters. It had 55 horsepower, wheelbase was 110 inches, and prices started at $845. Trim levels were labeled in Spanish, including De Lujo and Roadster Español. It was immediately entered at Le Mans, primarily just for the publicity. First-year sales were just above 80,000, a record for an introductory model at the time, and a record that would last nearly as long as the brand itself. Engine options and sizes were soon expanding, up to 208 cubic inches and 70 horsepower by 1930. It had already broke into the top 12 in sales, which is one of the reasons it was able to survive the Great Depression when much more established brands didn't. With the purchase of Dodge by Chrysler, DeSoto initially fit between Dodge and Plymouth, but in 1933 was moved up market to fit between Dodge and Chrysler, once again becoming a smaller version of a Chrysler, this time as the Airflow starting in 1934, and joined by the more traditional Airstream in 1935. By this time, the straight six was up to 242 cubic inches, or 4 liters, and 100 horsepower. 1939 models got updated Art Deco styling from Dietrich of coach building fame, as DeSoto attempted to regain some of its trendy image while remaining conservative and formal. Then in 1941, they got a toothy waterfall grille, a year before Buick, becoming even more Art Deco, a style that DeSoto would carry into the 1950s. The 1942 models got airfoil power flip-up headlights, a first due to the earlier cord pop-up headlights using manual hand cranks. The flip-up headlights, however, were a feature that did not return after wartime restrictions ended, when trim levels would become generic, deluxe, and custom. But that would soon change with the introduction of the Firedome Hemi. These V8 models would also be called the Firedome. The base DeSoto Custom with a 4.1-liter 251 cubic inch Power Master 6 had 116 horsepower and 208 pound-feet of torque. The 160 horsepower, 250 pound-feet of torque, 276 cubic inch 4.6-liter Firedome V8 would also find its way into the French Fossil Vega. But in a 1952 DeSoto Coupe with a 3-speed manual, it did 60 in 12 seconds and the quarter mile in 19. A custom or deluxe 6 could be had for as little as $2,300, while the Firedome could run above $3,500. The early 50s would see DeSoto's highest-selling years, the only period with annual totals over 100,000. The grille would be popular among hot rodders as a customization option. The Fireflight would appear in 1955 as a more luxurious version of the Firedome. The Hemi was up to 325 cubic inches, or 5.3 liters, with 185 to 200 horsepower. It could be had with a Powerflight automatic with a dash-mounted flight control shift lever. Prices started at just over $3,500. A Fireflight Sportsman with an overdrive 4-speed manual could do 60 in less than 12 seconds, and the quarter mile in 18 and a half, which would be joined in 1956 by the sportier Adventurer, DeSoto's version of the Chrysler 300, available in your choice of black or white with gold trim. It had a 5.6-liter 341 Hemi and a list of standard features that ranged from gold wheel covers to heavy-duty suspension. With 320 horsepower and 356 pound-feet of torque, it did 60 in about 9 seconds and the quarter mile in 17 and a half. Less than 1,000 sold the first year. For 1957, the Adventurer's 341 was up to 345 horsepower and 390 pound-feet of torque, or more than 1 horsepower per cubic inch, just in time for the big-finned forward-look cars with their triple-stacked taillights that would become the iconic DeSoto look. There was also a new budget DeSoto called the Fire Sweep, essentially a Dodge Coronet with DeSoto styling. The Fire Sweep started at $2,800, while the Adventurer started above $4,000. An Adventurer could reach 60 in under 7 seconds, and the quarter mile in just under 16, topping out at over 125 miles an hour. Like other Chrysler products, DeSoto transitioned from Hemi to Wedge in 1958, in this case to a 5.9-liter 361 cubic inch version. In the Adventurer, with your choice of dual 4-barrel carbs for 345 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque, or fuel injection with 360 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60 in quarter mile times were identical, just under 8 seconds and just under 16, although the fuel-injected car was 2 miles an hour faster and got 3 more miles per gallon, averaging 12. But in spite of the expanded lineup, DeSoto was starting to struggle, and rumors of its demise were not helping sales. Neither was the recession, and although the brand remained in its typical 12th place in sales, that continued to have less meaning as there were fewer competitors. In 1958, sales were nearly half what they had been the year before, dropping another 40% over the next 2 years. 1961 would be the last year of DeSoto, a car which was basically a Chrysler Windsor with a different grille and no model designation. Just over 3,000 were made before ending 33 years as Chrysler's mid-price division. Of course, by this time, multiple divisions were being replaced by the use of more models from fewer brands, meaning the need for DeSoto was passing anyway. And although the DeSoto name would be gone, the car range effectively carried on as the Dodge Custom 880, more closely related to standard Chryslers than standard Dodges such as the Polara. Of course, these models would only carry on until 1965, when Dodge's lineup would be shuffled for an expanded line of models. Whether you consider DeSoto to have faded away or to have been merged into Dodge, it played an important role in both Chrysler and the American market. And as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment below and like and subscribe.